yoga. Put on some of your favorite music and let's start to practice. We're going to start on our backs, doing a little breath work. We're going to do equalized breath, which means we're working to make our inhale just as long as the exhale. We're going to inhale through the nose for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhale through the nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling a count of 4, exhaling a count of 4. Trying to make our inhale just as long as the exhale. Our breath is a pretty incredible thing. It's part of the autonomic nervous system, just like our heartbeat. Our heartbeat is something that we don't have to think about doing. Our heart just beats. And in the same way, we can go through a whole night sleeping without ever worrying about getting the oxygen that we need. We just breathe. We just inhale, we just exhale. But different than our heartbeat, we can control our breath, right? We can hold our breath when we go underwater. And then we can also use our breath because it's kind of a connector between our mind and our body. If we are feeling something like anxiousness or we're upset or we're worried, we can use our breath to calm ourselves down. That exhale has the potential to really bring us back to a place of peace. God made us in incredible ways like this. So our breath is a tool that we want to practice and learn to use. We want to observe it. Maybe we find that our inhale is consistently longer than that exhale, and that might mean we're feeling anxious through the day and we don't need to, that we have an option that we can try to slow that down. So that's why we do this breath work, because when we learn to control our breaths, we learn a little bit about ourselves, why we're feeling the way we do, and we learn how we can manipulate the way we feel by calming ourselves down. We've been talking about the Lord's Prayer, and the Lord's Prayer makes a change here. While the first 3 petitions focus on God, these final 3 take on a more practical sense, with attention to ourselves and our community, like give us this day our daily bread. The hardest word for me in that sentence of that part of the prayer, daily. I'm a planner, and my brain wants to know everything is going to be okay way past sundown. Tell me exactly how next year is set up, please. I can allow my anxiety to dictate my attitude of tomorrow, or I can pray for my daily bread, be thankful for the provision, and trust that God will take care of me tomorrow, too. In the same chapter as the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6, Jesus teaches us not to worry about anything. He says to look to the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? He says, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. God promises to take care of our needs. Praying, give us this day our daily bread, reminds us of our dependence on God. It flies in the face of philosophies like you are enough, you can do anything on your own. We want to believe we're self-sufficient, but all that we have is a gift from God. He's granted it to us. We're dependent on God for every breath we have. It's all a gift. Now we can draw those knees in towards the chest, rocking that out a little bit. Then let's return our feet to the mat. And let's drop those knees back and forth, left to right. Getting a little bit of rotation while we warm the hips at the same time. We can take our right foot into the air. Let's give a little twist to that ankle. Then we'll switch directions. And then let's lower and lift. Finding that place between easy and hard every time that our leg comes up, getting a little stretch to our hamstrings, but not doing anything that's going to bring us to a place of pain. And the next time that we come into this position, let's hold it here for a breath or 2. Knees are soft. Release it back to neutral. Let's do a little circle here. And switch directions. Working within that ball and socket of the hip. Then we'll drop that leg back down. Let's lift that right leg. Give a twist to the ankle here. Get out all the snap, crackles, and pops. Switch directions. And then let's lower and lift. Now, as we lower and lift, we want to be keeping our ankle, our knee, and our hip in alignment with each other. We want our foot to be flexed to help protect those tissues underneath of the knee. The next time we come up, let's stay here, still a soft knee here. Drawing the toes downward, feeling a release down the back of the leg. And then we'll cross, first let's circle within the ball and socket of that hip, switch directions. And then we're gonna cross that left foot over the right, keeping a flexed foot. Let's do a flowing pigeon here. Drawing it towards us, then releasing back. Both of our feet are flexed. We wanna feel this in the hip. We don't wanna feel any pressure in the knee from this. We can have a less dramatic bend to the knee if we need to. You could straighten the leg and come here if that possibly causes less pain to your knee. And the next time that we come into this, let's stay here. Maybe finding the hand with that foot. You can take the thumb and just press it into the bottom of that foot, getting a little bit of a massage here, applying some pressure. Take a big inhale, and on the exhale, we can hug this a little bit closer and then release it back to the mat. Let's draw our right leg over the left, crossing it, flowing pigeon once more, releasing away, drawing it towards us, feeling that release of tension within the ball and socket of the hip. One breath, one movement. And the next time that we draw that towards us, we can stay here, or we can take that foot into the hand, pressing the thumb into the feet at different places, getting just kind of a little mini foot massage here. And then we can release our feet to be underneath of the knees. Let's draw our hands to the side, working up vertebrae by vertebrae. Let's lift into bridge. And then lower vertebrae by vertebrae. So we're not just popping up and down here. We're thinking, we're noticing, we're moving one vertebrae at a time into this gentle extension that's also going to work to strengthen the legs and open up our hip flexors. Inhaling, exhaling. And then let's draw those knees back in towards the chest. Rolling over to our belly. A little more rotation here as we lift the right leg, bringing it over to the left. Lift the left leg, bringing it over to the right. Alternating sides. Getting that spine nice and loose with our rotation here. And let's ease back into child's pose for our first time of prayer. Let's come into a time of adoration, praising our Father for who He is. And then we can alternate reaching forward with the right and releasing, reaching forward with the left. Releasing, continuing with our spinal warm-up by creating space down the side of the spine. Reaching directly over that shoulder. And then let's deepen this, taking our right hand over to the left. Creating a lot of length down the side here, space between those vertebrae down the side with this lateral flexion. Notice how every breath creates a little more space on the inhale. And let's release this, coming to the other side. Reaching, breathing. And let's take our hands to the right, drawing that left foot up, framing it, pushing off, lifting up, hands meet, coming to heart center. We're gonna come into just a little bit of a flying bird here. We're gonna open up the chest. Let's take this opportunity to give a twist to those wrists, switching directions, and then give ourselves a hug. So think about cat-cow, how we get that flexion and extension. We're doing that same thing with our spine here, rounding out the back as we come forward, taking our gaze high and throwing that back into extension as we come back. We're alternating stepping back with the right and stepping back with the left. As we replace those feet back up, we want to bring them in front of the hips. Head drops down as we come forward. Gaze lifts high as we come back. We can bring those hands to heart center. Let's inhale up. Exhaling, forward fold. Coming into monkey, taking the hands to the shins, flattening out the back, trying to get parallel to the mat. Then dropping down, releasing to forward fold, stepping those feet back into plank, pushing back to down dog, walking our feet forward, back into a forward fold, inhaling up, exhaling chair, inhaling up, exhaling monkey, flattening out the back, then releasing to a full forward fold, bringing those hands to the mat, pushing back to plank, down dog, walking those feet forward, inhaling up, exhaling chair, inhaling up, exhaling monkey, flattening out the back, releasing completely, pushing back to plank, down dog, walking those feet forward, inhaling up, exhaling chair. Now let's stay here in chair for a second, feeling a strengthening of the legs. If it's comfortable, let's bring those arms up to be where the ears are. Then let's take our right hand and kind of slice it down and rotate towards the left. Taking a peek at the left side of the room, moving that belly button behind us while the hips stay forward. Breathing. You can release that hand back up, staying in chair, keeping a nice strong leg here. Slicing that left hand down towards the right, taking our gaze towards the right. You want to keep those knees in line with the hips, so don't let that hand push the knees together. We want to keep the knees in line with the ankles and the hips. Staying in chair, we can release those hands up. Breathing. How do we feel holding a pose like this for a longer period of time? Are we starting to feel restless? And is it our mind that gives up first, or is it our body? Are we just kind of tired of being in this pose? Can we strengthen our will here, our discipline? And we can come overhead. Coming back down, let's step back into plank directly. Breathing here, strengthening the core, hands underneath the shoulders. We always have this option to drop down to the knees if you'd like. Breathing. Holding the movement, never holding the breath. And let's push back to down dog. Let's alternate pressing those heels towards the mat. Tailbone stays high, head hanging between the biceps. We're creating an L with the thumb and the first finger. Breathing. Now we can just release both heels back. Let's come back into a time of prayer. Coming into a time of a prayer of confession. And we can shift forward once more to plank. Breathing and strengthening that core. If this bothers the wrist, we can come down to the forearms. And let's push back to down dog. Walking the feet towards the hands. Slowly rolling up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Inhaling up, exhaling, forward fold. Let's step back into lunge. Lifting those arms overhead. Want to feel a good stretch in that rear hip flexor. Strengthen that front leg, pressing that front foot, all four corners of it into the mat. Want to make sure that that front knee is not crossing over the toes at all. If it's comfortable, we come to a 90-degree angle. If that bothers the knee, we don't go quite so far. We're reaching our arms overhead, but the shoulders kind of feel like they're staying down. You want to draw the shoulders down, lifting the fingertips up. We're grounded through that front foot. Gaze is straight ahead. So we're trying to engage just the mid and the low traps. The upper traps, not so much. We don't want to feel like we've got our shoulders hunched up around our ears. And we can drop our hands down towards the mat, lifting that foot behind us. Bringing the hands underneath of the shoulders here. Take a peek back, see if the toes are pointing downward. Breathing. And we can drop that right foot, both feet underneath of the hips. And let's shift into airplane, arms at the side, palms up. Doing our best to do what feels like we're parallel to the mat. Not letting the head drop. We've got an engaged neck here. Equal pressure between the right and the left feet. We've got soft knees, maybe even a little bend here, but we don't want to lock them out. And we can release those arms down, inhaling up. Let's reach up here, taking a moment here for our prayer of thanksgiving. And then we're going to step back with that left foot into warrior two. Getting a little bit of length here between the legs, about a 45-degree angle of that rear foot. Reaching in both directions, shoulders down away from the ears. We've got our gaze over that middle finger, pose of strength, nice strong legs here. Good 90-degree angle with that bent leg. The knee is pointing towards the second toe to take care of our knees. And we can flip up that right hand, leaning in, coming into exalted warrior. Breathing and feeling that release down the side of the spine. Lifted, upper body reaching towards the corner of the room. Both feet grounded in a pose of strength as we're in this warrior pose. And let's come into a bound angle, or close to it. We're going to rest our right arm on the leg. Coming into side angle, let's set up those feet to be nice and wide, maybe tiptoe them out a little bit even. Then we're going to draw that upper arm behind us, the left, letting it dangle down between the legs. Then we're going to take our right hand and reach for it. Maybe we can find it, maybe we can't. Our gaze comes high. You're welcome to use a strap here, a jump rope, towel, and then hang on to the towel. And then you can kind of wiggle walk your fingers towards each other. Breathing. And we can release this. Let's come into pyramid, taking those hands on either side of that right foot, pressing the left back, soft knees, head hanging down, chest and abdominals relaxing over the top of that right leg. Narrow stance here like we're standing on railroad tracks with the ankles and the knees and the hips in line with each other. All 10 toes facing the front of the mat. Breathing. Feeling a good release here. You can have your hands at the calf, the ankle, the floor. You're welcome to use blocks. Releasing those hamstrings. Then let's walk our hands towards the long edge of the mat. I'm going to back up just a little bit so that I don't leave the camera. Rather than coming into a standing straddle, we're going to come into a standing wide-legged down dog. So we walk those hands out, and then rather than keeping the hands under the shoulders, they're out, and instead of keeping the hips in line with the heels, we're pushing the hips back, getting that feeling of the down dog. We've still got a soft knee here. Breathing, you will really feel a lengthening of the back on this. It should feel really good in the back. Head is hanging down, completely relaxed. We're still getting a good hamstring stretch like we would with our standing straddle. Welcome to use blocks here. And let's walk those hands to a more supportive position. Coming back to the other side of the mat. Inhaling up. Exhaling, forward fold. This time we're going to step back with that right foot coming into lunge. Lifting those arms overhead. Gaze straight ahead for today anyway. Getting a good stretch in that hip flexor. Nice strong leg to the front here. Let's return our attention to our breath if it's left. Inhaling for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4. If this bothers our shoulders, we can always come heart center. We can do cactus arms. Breathing, finding strength in that front leg. That heel is lifted because it's a lunge rather than a warrior. Let's just come into a little tripod here, dropping the hands down, lifting that rear leg behind us. We've got the support of 2 hands here, head hanging down, rear toe pointed towards the floor. Breathing. And we can drop that right foot, placing those feet underneath of the hips, lifting into airplane, palms up. Let's make sure those arms aren't traveling out at all, but they're nice and close to the torso. Soft knees. Bringing what feels like about parallel to the mat, or as close as we're comfortable getting to having the torso parallel to the mat. Neck is engaged, we're not letting the head drop, but we're also not overextending by trying to look ahead at all. And we can drop down, inhaling up, bringing our arms overhead, and stepping back with that right foot into warrior 2. Shoulders down, away from the ears, gaze over that middle finger. Pose of strength. We want to feel like we're reaching in 2 directions here. Stretching those fingertips of the left as far away from the fingertips of the right as we can. We can flip up that left hand, leaning in, coming into exalted warrior. And let's come into that bound angle. Starting with side angle, you can always stay in side angle if you'd like to. Let's make sure those legs are nice and far apart. Then we're gonna draw our right leg, our right hand behind us, peeking between those legs, taking the left, seeing if we can find the fingertips for a little bind here. Using a strap if we'd like. Our gaze is high. Breathing. And we can release this, moving into pyramid. All 10 toes facing the front of the mat. Pressing our hips backward, head hanging down, feeling a good release of the hamstrings. Hands at either the calf, the ankle, or the floor. And we can step up with that right foot. Let's inhale up, hands meet, coming to heart center. We're gonna do some balance work, but first let's move into a time of supplication, praying for those requests that are on our hearts. As we start to move into a time of balance, we're going to start with a standing pigeon. So let's stabilize on that left foot, finding a focal point, staring at it, then lifting that right knee, crossing it over the left, taking our hands to heart center and sinking those hips back. We want a flexed foot on that right foot, and we're breathing. No further down than 90 degrees, and we don't need to go down that far. There's a lot going on here as we're trying to get nice and loose in the hip while at the same time stabilizing on that left foot. A little bit of a game of the mind here too, just staying and being calm. Using that exhale to calm us. When we're feeling frantic, it's going to be very difficult to hold a balanced pose. Now continuing to balance on that left foot, we can either stay here in standing pigeon, or we can add a big toe hold, returning to that knee up position, taking 2 fingers of the right, finding the big toe, extending our left arm out, and extending that foot, maybe choosing to open it up to the side. Breathing. Your choice. We can stay in standing pigeon. Isn't it funny how if you just think about standing pigeon, suddenly your body wants to follow, right? And we can release that. Stepping it out, noticing the difference between how we feel on the right and the left. Let's stabilize on that right foot. Finding a focal point. Lifting that left knee, crossing it over, sitting the hips back, hands at heart center, we're flexing the foot, noticing which side was harder than the other. I'm definitely having a harder time on this side than I did on the other side. Breathing. Holding the movement, never holding the breath. Our balance work is a great opportunity to start stretching out that exhale. Now we can stay here, or if you'd like, you can move into that big toe hold by lifting that right knee, taking 2 fingers, or that left knee, taking 2 fingers of the left, finding that big toe, extending our right arm out, extending the leg. Your choice if you want to open to the side at all. Breathing. And we can release that down. Let's inhale up, exhaling forward fold. Coming down to our knees. And into a child's pose. Let's do a wide knee child's pose. Big toes kissing, knees wide. Finding how much of the surface of the mat we can hit with the body on every exhale. Releasing. And then we're going to come up to all fours. Let's take that right knee forward, tiptoeing those toes around until we come into a seated pigeon. And we can hinge forward. Maybe you'd like to grab a block here. Let's just relax that head. That right foot has a flexed foot to protect our knee. If this feels difficult, another option is to place the block underneath of the tush. If we don't have a block, but you need a little support, you can always take your wrists and stack them, placing the forehead on top. Breathing and releasing. Let's take our hands to a supportive position, pushing back to plank. Strengthening the core, taking our option if we need to, coming down to the knees. Or if this is where we're challenged today, meeting the challenge. Dropping back to all fours, taking our left knee forward, tiptoeing the foot out to the side, getting a flexed foot, sinking back, remembering our options, or we could take a block underneath of us where we sit, or we can drop the head to one, and we breathe. Noticing things like what's in contact with the mat. Has our leg turned sideways? Let's make sure that we've got our kneecap down, hip flexor facing down. We're relaxing the shoulders. And we can come up to a seated position. Let's draw our left knee underneath of us. Bending the right over the top, we can take our left arm beside us and then keep the hips forward, just taking the belly button behind us, followed by the chest and our gaze. We want to take that right foot and be pressing it into the mat. That's our foundation here. Find a focal point, something to look at behind you. And then every exhale is an opportunity to deepen this stretch a little bit more. Now we're going to keep our left leg right where it is. Then we're going to drop the right on top. If it's possible, let's try to bring both of our knees to be straight forward. Flexing the feet here in a Turkish twist. Again, we have an option to sit on a block if that helps a little bit. Then let's just take our hands to heart center and hinge forward. And then come back out of that. Your feet are going to stay exactly where they are. They're just going to kind of press into the ground and spin. Take your hands over towards the left, both hands down, push off, and stand onto the feet exactly where they are. Twisting, walking the hands to the other side. And you should land in our Turkish twist on the other side. If not, just come up, throw that right leg on the bottom, left leg on top, taking the hands to heart center and hinging forward. And we can ease up out of that. Let's take that left leg, bringing it up, creating that foundation where the foot can press in. We can take our right arm around, rotating the belly button behind us, followed by the chest and our gaze. Breathing. Every exhale is an opportunity to move deeper into our rotation here. And then we can release forward. We're going to move into legs up the wall. You can do this at a wall by just kicking your legs up the wall. It's a good pose to do 5 to 10 minutes every day. We won't be in it for that long, but let's do the pose. If you don't have a wall, you can do what I'm doing, which is grabbing a strap, making sure that it's bound, taking the right foot in, pressing off, making sure that everything is nice and tight, and then backing up, making sure that those legs can really rest into the strap as we move into a time of restorative yoga, allowing our strap to do all the work. Inhaling, exhaling. Let's inhale for a count of 4 and exhale for a count of 8. I know how easy it can be for time to fly without us ever really taking the time that we need to express our dependence on God through prayer. And that's why I provide opportunities for prayer in our yoga sessions. Prayer is vital to us, like breathing as far as I'm concerned. Dane Ortland, in my new favorite book titled Deeper, says this, which I gotta say hit me pretty hard. He says, if we do not pray, we do not believe God is an actual person. We may say we do, but we don't really. If we do not pray, we actually think he's an impersonal force of some kind, a platonic ideal, distant and removed, powerful but abstract. We don't view him as a father. What would you say to a 10-year-old daughter who never spoke to her dad, never asked him for anything, never thanked him, never expressed love to him, despite his many expressions of love to her? You would conclude she believes she has a father only in theory, not in actuality. We would conclude that her father's love didn't feel real to her. So let's pray now, lest we forget later in the day. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the glory, the power, and the honor forever. Amen. And now if you're in the strap for legs up the wall, we can release that strap. We're gonna be moving into our final relaxation here, so you can even stay at the wall if you'd like and just come up alongside of it. You can even stay in legs up the wall. We're gonna do some purposeful relaxation, a time of stillness. Let's do any wiggling we need to do to find that stillness. Taking our last purposeful breath of today, inhaling, exhaling, then allowing our breath to become easy and natural, nothing forced. Softening the shoulders, allowing them to melt into the floor. Softening the neck, allowing the chin to drop, the tongue to feel loose. Noticing the inside of the right side of the mouth and the inside of the left side of the mouth. Softening both cheekbones. Noticing all those passageways in the ears. bridge of the nose, the eyelids, the space between the eyebrows, the forehead. Feeling a softness across the whole top of the head. Allowing the body to feel heavy. Left arm completely relaxed. Sinking. Right arm completely relaxed. Sinking. Noticing the strength of the rib cage, the firmness of the floor. Allowing the hips to sink, both legs feeling heavy. Softening the tops of the legs, the bottom of the legs. Allowing the softness to circle the ankles, top of the right foot, top of the left. Softness across the bottom of both feet. Feeling an easiness in each of the toes. And now we can wiggle our fingers and toes, maybe blinking the eyes open, drawing the arms overhead like we're about to wake up. Then taking those knees in towards the chest.